Hi, and welcome to another one of my cyber security videos. Before I start, let me quickly tell you about my free guide called How to Get into Cybersecurity for Beginners, where I showcase my 5 must-know tips for anyone considering a career in cybersecurity. The link is in the description below. Okay, now let's get started. SIEM is an important concept in cybersecurity, and it's one of the first things I learnt about during my time transitioning over into cybersecurity. Now, in my day-to-day job, I spend a lot of time looking at how effectively SIEM systems are being used. So what is a SIEM? SIEM stands for Security Incident Event Management and is typically a system that collects logs from other systems, aggregating these logs into its central store. Then, using specialized software, the SIEM analyzes these different logs, and anything security related that looks suspect is flagged up by the SIEM software. A SIEM solution consists of a number of components involved in security information management, also known as SIEM, and security event management, also known as SEM, including the following: data aggregation, threat intelligence, security event correlation, advanced analytics, SOC automation, dashboards, threat hunting, and forensics. Let's explore these SIEM solution components in more detail to see how they work and fit together to analyze the incidents. Data aggregation. SIEM solutions need data from multiple sources as part of data aggregation, moving data into a single place. The SIEM systems either collect the data themselves or use forwarders to send logs from other systems to the SIEM system. These logs the SIEM system collects are a series of events recorded in files, providing a history of activity. Once the SIEM system has the logs, it uses a process to analyze the events in the logs and categorize the events based on the severity of the event. The SIEM systems have specialized software able to analyze the events using threat intelligence and historical analysis to work out which events need action taken and which ones can be ignored as they pose little threat. SIEM collectors can be configured to obtain log data from systems by being able to connect directly to the system and obtain the logs. SIEM forwarders can send log data to the SIEM solution from the system as they involve an installation of software known as an agent, which can forward events to the SIEM solution. Threat intelligence. SIEM technology has improved over the years to deal with the advancement of threats in cyberspace with the increased use of threat intelligence. What is threat intelligence in cybersecurity? Threat intelligence in cybersecurity involves collecting information about past, current, and potential future cyber threats, then analyzing this information to see if it is relevant and how it could impact the organization. The information about the past, current, and potential future cyber threats is just data. More specifically, you could call it threat data. Without understanding the relevance of the information in threat data, this threat data serves no purpose. However, when the threat data is analyzed and the information extracted that is relevant, then it can be said the threat data is now useful. This process of analyzing and determining the relevant information about particular cyber threats is the intelligence part of threat intelligence. Without this intelligence, that is the analysis, the threat data is just data that will sit dormant somewhere. Threat intelligence is a list of up-to-date threats shared from many different organizations, including security companies. Threat intelligence allows the SIEM systems to check for patterns to see whether there is a compromise from the latest threats. The different attacks change daily, with new attacks surfacing all the time, and knowing what the latest attacks are is important, as it allows early visibility of when these attacks happen. The worst case scenario would be learning of a new type of cyber attack after the cyber attack had taken place and done its damage. SIEM systems have developed complex analysis methods combined with artificial intelligence, AI, machine learning, also known as ML, to analyze threat data and determine which aspects of this data are intelligence to be acted upon and which parts are questionable. Security event correlation. Security event correlation involves trying to spot patterns in the data collected by the SIEM systems to see if there are any indicators that could threaten security. If suspicious patterns are discovered, these are then flagged up, allowing security analysts to investigate further and take any remedial action. Advanced analytics. Advanced analytics can involve behavior analysis by analyzing the data collected by the SIEM solution to see if there are any changes to expected behavior. As an example, the expected behavior of an employee may be to only log on to their system during work hours, but recently they have been logging in during the middle of the night. This could be investigated further to see whether the employee is legitimately doing this or they are doing this to get access to information they shouldn't be accessing. Dashboards and reporting. All SIEM solutions have dashboards for easy viewing of the threat landscape to give them indicators of what is happening across the systems the SIEM system is gathering data from. These dashboards also allow for reporting to be able to see the number of threats identified over a defined period, allowing organizations to determine the level of threats they have faced over time. Threat hunting. Threat hunting is important as new threats emerge all the time, and it is imperative to be able to analyze the data collected by a SIEM solution over time to determine whether a new threat that is out in the open has not previously inflicted the organization. By using search analysis tools provided by the SIEM, the security analyst can query the SIEM data and determine the impact on the organization over the past few months or even years. Forensics. When organizations discover they have been breached, they need to quickly determine when the breach occurred, what was taken, and whether those responsible for the breach are still in situ, that is, still inside the organization's systems. Forensics allows analysis to be done on the data collected over a period of time to try to work out the series of events leading to the breach, including the initial attacks, the time of the first breach, along with the activities done post getting inside the organization's systems. Forensics is an analysis of the crime scene, as what a breach would be, and like in those police TV shows where the forensic people try to work out what happened. Likewise in cybersecurity, the forensic analysts try to piece together the details of an incursion and breach of an organization's system. Which is the best SIEM tool? The best SIEM tools, according to Gartner, are Splunk, IBM QRadar, Exabeam, Logarithm, Skeuronix, Rapid7, and Dell Technologies RSA product, to name a few. These SIEM tools tend to be classed as leaders in the Gartner Magic Quadrant released each year. Splunk. Considered by some to be the leader of the pack, Splunk provides enterprise-level SIEM functionality and is a popular choice amongst many larger organizations. IBM QRadar. IBM QRadar is popular with larger organizations and provides SIEM capabilities to detect and prioritize threats encountered, allowing organizational security teams to deal with these events. Exabeam. Exabeam is one of the newer SIEM systems providers who have embraced artificial intelligence, machine learning to detect and try to stop cyber threats. Logarithm. Logarithm is a leading SIEM systems provider from the US, experienced in providing SIEM systems to corporates around the world. Skeuronix. Skeuronix markets its SIEM systems as a next-generation SIEM system providing advanced capabilities to deal with the ever-evolving threat landscape. Dell Technologies RSA. RSA SIEM systems have been around for a long time, and with its acquisition by Dell Technologies, this SIEM is still a popular choice for corporates. Cloud SIEM. It has also become easier for medium to smaller sized organizations to be able to use the SIEM, especially if they've embraced the cloud, with Microsoft's Azure Cloud providing Sentinel and Amazon's AWS providing Guard Duty, with both systems being able to provide analysis threats using threat intelligence. Those organizations who have not embraced the cloud find it expensive to implement SIEM solutions, especially if they are smaller organizations. The licensing costs can be prohibitive as they generally form some form of annual subscription cost. Then there is the issue of what to do with the outputs of the SIEM systems. how can the threat intelligence be actioned? This will require someone with experience of understanding which of the SIEM outputs requires action and which ones can be reviewed later or ignored. The threat intelligence used by the SIEM systems does not quite meet the one-size-fits-all and requires human analysis to make decisions, which will undoubtedly require tailoring to the organization using the SIEM system. What will be the right course of action for one organization might not necessarily hold true for another. SIEM expertise does not come cheap, and many organizations may find this a high cost to bear, with other organizations only using SIEM as they have been pushed into it by regulatory demands. Manage SIEM. The SIEM aspects can be outsourced to other organizations, specialists in managing SIEM solutions, who, for a price, would analyze the SIEM data. This can be beneficial for organizations who can ill afford the high costs of the SIEM combined with the in-house expertise to manage it. That being said, this also throws in issues around privacy, as the data passing into the SIEM is always going to be quite sensitive. It could contain not only details of individuals in the organization, but also details of systems feeding into the SIEM and secret information related to a company's activities. With some level of expertise, the data being pumped into the SIEM could be controlled. So if developers are creating software with hard-coded passwords in them, then the password data could be stopped from entering the SIEM by educating the developers not to hard-code any passwords in their code and use a secret management software. What is a Security Operations Center, SOC? A Security Operations Center, SOC for short, is part of the security team of an organization that is responsible for analyzing and protecting the organization from cyber attacks. Although SOC employees work with other teams and departments, they are usually their own independent department. The SOC responsibilities are at the operational aspects of an organization to ensure the continued operation of the organization's information security protections are not being compromised. This is different to the other security aspects of an organization, where the responsibilities lie with developing security strategy, designing security architecture, to implementing protective security measures. In essence, the SOC is responsible for ensuring the security implemented by other teams in the organization is steadfast, and if this is not the case, to make sure effective damage limitation takes place. A Security Operations Center's staff consists mainly of security analysts, with specialist staff also including those with skills in forensic analysis, cryptography, to malware reverse engineering. SOC positions tend to be held by employees who have access to the most sensitive information and data across the organization's systems. Typically, Security Operations Centers provide round-the-clock 24/7 monitoring to protect the systems using specialist security tools and expert personnel known as SOC analysts. Most of the information the SOC relies on for security analysis is assessed using automated systems capable of filtering and flagging the most serious security events. This allows the SOC analyst to be able to quickly deal with security incidents with higher priority very quickly, instead of having to manually sift through security events and determine the priorities. Services provided by Security Operations Centers. Security Operations Centers provide two types of services: monitoring and incident management. Both of these services are an important part of how the SOCs run in their day-to-day activities. The Security Operations Center consists of highly qualified personnel who are actively involved in monitoring, detecting, and improving the security posture of the organization they work for. Through their prevention, detection, analysis work, they can respond to cybersecurity threats using well-established and tested processes. The SOC is headed by a SOC manager whose responsibility is to oversee the security operations and manage the SOC staff, including analysts, engineers, and security specialists. Monitoring. Monitoring involves checking systems for cybersecurity threats and usually involves using specialized cybersecurity tools to pick up suspicious patterns. These cybersecurity tools link into a centralized management system with dashboards that provide any alerts to suspicious activities and patterns. Incident management. Incident management is dealing with alerts to suspicious activities and patterns, involving trying to determine firstly the criticality of the threat, and then running through various incident management processes to try to neuter the threat. The processes generally involve people to manage them and technology to help pinpoint more information about the threats and try to stop it in its wake. What should a security operations center monitor? Security monitoring is involved in watching and analysing an organisation's systems and environments for security events. An organisation's network, servers, databases to its websites, endpoints like computers, and more are in scope for security monitoring. Specialist security tools like breach detection tools are used to protect systems, with some tools providing immediate responses, that is in real time, to breaches, such as intrusion prevention systems, IPS for short, and intrusion detection systems, IDS for short, with other tools providing delayed responses, like the SIEM tool, as these tools work by ingesting logs and then analysing these logs, with the delay in getting these logs being responsible for these tools not to be able to work in real time. Analysis. The SOC's primary goal is to ensure any potential security incidents are identified correctly, analysed accordingly through a thorough investigation, with any steps to reduce any immediate impact if possible implemented. The reporting of incidents is vitally important, as incorrect reporting could end up making a security incident worse. The analysis will try to determine how systems were breached by trying to find out the entry point of where hackers managed to get in. Once this has been established, the next stage of analysis will look at the depth of the breach by trying to work out what other systems were compromised, what was potentially stolen or altered or added if it's spyware, and to try to come up with a detailed map of hacker activities. The SOC analysts have a plethora of security tools at their disposal to aid their analysis work and give them detailed information quickly. Their goal is to identify and analyse cybersecurity incidents and respond to them with a variety of tools such as threat detection methods, intrusion detection and response, IDR for short, intrusion prevention and control, IPC for short, and the prevention of cybercrime. The analysis will also look to try to stay ahead of potential threats by analysing active feeds, establishing rules, identifying exceptions, improving responses, and keeping a close eye on the defences already in place. SOCs are designed to improve threat detection so that they can respond faster and more effectively to reduce or even minimise their risk. Some SOC team responsibilities also include the management of security tools, from security incident event management, SIEM, tools to firewalls. The management responsibilities require updating these tools with the latest patches and fixes. A fix. Once the threat has been analysed, the next step involves in trying to contain the threat. It's like getting injured and starting to bleed, with the first steps involved in trying to stop the bleeding so the blood can clot and stop any nasties getting into the body. Likewise, with containment in security, the hole in the system where the threat has entered, its entry point, needs to be closed off and patched in some way to stop any more damage being done. If a hole has been created, such as a vulnerability in a website has allowed hackers to run SQL injection attacks, then the first step is either to bring the website down or put some protection in front of the website. Bringing the website might not make commercial sense, especially if an organisation has thousands of customers relying on the website. So putting in protective measures like a web application firewall, WAF for short, may make more economic sense, as this will stop any further SQL injection attacks taking place, giving the organisation time to fix the problem with its website, as this will require additional development time along with testing and other quality gates required to bring a system into a live production state. This fixing of the problem is the eradication stage, whereas the name implies the threat is removed. In the real world, fixes generally are not as simple as the example above, as the threat normally propagates from one system to another, especially if the security controls to limit lateral movement are weak. This leads to a more complicated process of eradication, trying to fix many problems which might not be impacted by the fix individually, but collectively they might not work as expected when the threat has been eradicated. But if the organisation has bought itself some time by containing the threat, then it can spend time eradicating the threat and the damage it has caused. In a worst case scenario, systems may stop being operational after a threat, and once containment has been done, and if possible eradication, the recovery of the system is the next step. Organisations want to get into a real business as usual state and recover systems quickly as possible. If the damage done was severe, then backups would be used to try to bring systems back up. In today's cloud environments where automation is king, any systems failing can simply be spun up again by running an automation script. Recovery would require disaster recovery teams to get involved to make sure the plan agreed prior, which has been tested on a regular basis, can be put into place. NOC versus SOC. Network Operation Centers, NOC for short, main focus is to ensure the availability and performance of systems by monitoring the network infrastructure, whilst the Security Operations Center, SOC for short, has its main focus to protect all systems, including applications, infrastructure networks within the organization. If an organization gets hit by a denial of service attack, DDoS for short, the NOC will be the first to become aware of this from their monitoring and alerting. The DDoS attack has the potential to affect the performance of the network, including its overall availability, thereby stopping any legitimate network traffic from entering or leaving the organization. The NOC will work with the SOC to ensure the network performance issues from the DDoS attack are managed as an incident through the SOC incident management process. The Security Operations Center provides a central location for an organization to solve a variety of security issues on both an organizational and technical level. It is a central unit within a building or facility that may be supervised by on-site staff. The Security Operations Center is an IT security team used by the IT and security teams to monitor and analyze the organization's security posture and operations. SOCs are centralized units within buildings or facilities that have the ability to monitor employees on and off-site and access information and data from multiple sources. The goal of the SOC team is to identify, analyze and respond to anomalies and potential cybersecurity incidents through a combination of technologies and processes. Employees work closely with the organizing team to ensure that security issues are resolved quickly after they are detected. Risk assessment, coordination and communication are essential to ensure that all support groups have accurate information on the current risk status. Why do you need a Security Operations Center? The need for a Security Operations Center can be based on regulatory requirements. In many instances, an organization may need to satisfy they are capable of protecting their information as required by regulations around card data, PCI DSS for example. Companies that rely on large amounts of highly sensitive data and have sufficient financial resources should consider developing a SOC. Companies can choose whether they want to set up an in-house security operations center or partner with a managed security service provider that offers SOC services. For small and medium-sized enterprises that lack the resources to develop their own SOC, outsourcing the SOC to a service provider could be the most cost-effective option. How do you implement a Security Operations Center? The way to implement a Security Operations Center involves the following steps: creating a SOC strategy, designing and building a SOC solution, defining SOC processes, and training. The SOC strategy is an important part of the overall SOC capabilities, where the expectation of the SOC service are determined along with the capabilities and SOC security tooling to be used. The overall strategy of the Security Operations Center is all about collecting and analyzing data to make the entire organization safer. The strategy will consider the raw data requiring monitoring by the SOC team to ensure it is security relevant, including where the data comes from. Is it from an internal or external security monitoring system, for example? When it comes to building the SOC solution, a decision on whether the SOC needs to be managed by the organization itself or a hybrid SOC is going to be used needs to be made. If it's outsourced, then an initial analysis of the security events is done by a third party before passing them on to the organization. Or if a decision is to go the whole hog and use a managed security service provider who manages the whole of the SOC service, then effective plans and measures will need to be drawn up. The last part of the SOC implementation is defining the processes and the people involved, where the incident management, the SOC security teams, the break-fix teams and so on are established. The SOC team will also work to define and draft an action plan for the next steps in the security strategy of the Security Operations Center, such as the introduction of new security measures. In the world of security operation centers, any signs of security incidents are continuously examined for potential security threats using security tools and from further analysis done by SOC analysts. It might be helpful to consider the SOC as an IT department that focuses on security as opposed to network maintenance or other IT tasks. Thanks for viewing this video. Don't forget I have a free guide called How to Get into Cybersecurity for Beginners, where I showcase my 5 must-know tips for anyone considering a career in cybersecurity. The link is in the description below. Till the next time.